guess who's back? Back again. And guess what? Brian's continuing with part 4 of his The Flash reading order, part of a collaboration with the Omnibuds Cafe. And we're still post-Crisis on Infinite Earth, pre-Flash Rebirth. So it's a Walla 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 world, Walla 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 world. And we're moving on to the, well, one of the best runs for the Flash, with the Mark Waid Era, now available in 2 The Flash by Mark Waid Omnis, with a Flash Deluxe with Mark Miller and Grant Morrison. Also available in some harder to find trade paperbacks with volumes 7, 8 of The Flash by Mark Waid, making up part of The Flash by Mark Waid Volume 3 in omnibus format, now just available as The Flash by Mark Waid 7, 8, becoming scarcer to find. This is one of the golden eras for Wally West, and even though the William Messer-Loeb run introduces you to Wally's beginning steps, his journey from Kid Flash to Flash after the events of Crisis on Infinite Earth, this is where you really start to get to the meat and potatoes of Wally evolving into his own person, becoming his own man, moving beyond just being a legacy character before the Jeff Johns era that gets a lot of notice. Truly, without Mark Waid's run, the Jeff Johns era would not have been able to shine as brightly as it does. This is truly a top 5 Flash run. And you might be able to say the William Messer-Loeb era was able to walk, so the Flash by Mark Waid was able to run, and the Jeff Johns era was then able to sprint through the Speed Force. Thank you, Brian, for including me in these short little segments. Thank you for uplifting the love of the best Flash ever, Wally West, pre-Heroes in Crisis. Stay tuned for that little number, boys, girls, and everything in between. It's a doozy. For now, settle back and listen to Brian's melodious love for all things The Flash, with part 4 of the Flash reading order, presenting collaboration with the Omnibud's Cafe.
Thank you, Stephen, for that introduction and all those kind words. And yes, he basically summed it up. But yeah, we're going to focus on the Mark Waid era today. While not my personal favorite run, this is still a fantastic run and probably the most important run on The Flash. So let's, today here on the Omnibud's Cafe, let's wrap up the 90s. And welcome back, everyone. And yes, we are here at episode 4 of the Flash reading order, like we said before. So here we are. We're going to start off with the Flash by Mark Waid Omnibus, Volume 1. Let's open up this bad boy and see what we got. Stretch that spine. Stretch that spine. And that wraps up Mark Waid Volume 2. We're going to take a bit of a detour here. In the next episode, we'll be talking about Grant Morrison, Mark Millar's run on The Flash, as well as the return of Mark Waid, as we'll see in the next episode. See you guys then. Alright, and welcome back, everyone. Normally I would show the interior, but I didn't want to do that today because it technically is a little spoilerish, and it's a great shot that I want to show off more when we get to the actual book. So for now, we're just going to do it with the opening page here. But yes, this is The Flash by Mark Waid Volume 1. Got the contents, of course. So we actually do start off with a Flash 50th anniversary special. This is actually kind of important because what's cool about this is that you get to see Mark actually write 3 different stories following this one character named John Fox, who goes through all the different time periods of all the different Flashes to stop this one villain who keeps coming back from time and gets stronger by each time period. But what's cool is you get to see him explore each timeline. So you get to see him in the Golden Age, you get to see him in the Silver Age, and then, of course, you get to see him at this time, the Modern Age, with Wally. So, but John Fox will be an important character in this run, and will come back later. Like I said, we start with Jay. See, even the way that they do it here, it's kind of like old school like that. Like, I like that. Make it seem like as if you are reading a Golden Age comic. Now we're in the Silver Age with Barry. And then we go into the modern stuff with Wally. And that's John Fox. Flash facts. There are the 3 Flashes. Then we have the annual for Armageddon 01. We're going to skip over that a bit, though, because that's just part of a DC event. Armageddon 2001. It's a good annual, but again, we're not here to talk about that. So, okay, here we are. This is where we actually start. This is the Flash 62 Born to Run. Flash year 1. So basically, this is the year 1 for Wally West. Year 1 was a big thing going on at DC at the time. Of course, we had Batman year 1. It was post-Crisis. A lot of origins were happening. This happened obviously way later, a little bit later than Crisis. But again, one of the things that's cool about Mark Waid for us, I like that he's going right in this and being like giving a fresh start. Here's the origin, which in a way I almost would say, I mean, don't get me wrong, the William S. Burroughs stuff is good, but like Mark Waid is like a good starting point, like in general, if you want to start with the Flash, and specifically if you want to start with Wally. This is a really good starting point, considering that it goes right to his origin. And there, of course, there's young Wally West, admiring his hero, the Flash, Barry Allen. Of course, he doesn't know that yet. To Wally at this point, it's just oh, this is the guy my aunt's dating. He seems kind of cool, but apparently he knows the Flash. Oh, okay. There we go. This is their first meeting. And bam, right there. The lightning, same freak accident. Chemicals hit Wally, lightning strikes. And we have a new Flash. Or in this case, a Kid Flash. Now, again, one of the things I really liked, too, that Mark Waid did, which I thought was pretty cool, that kept consistent, was I liked that he actually did have him start with just the normal Flash costume. He didn't, like, skip over and just do the Kid Flash costume. Like, no, he kept it, like, intact with continuity, which I thought was really cool. And overall, this is a really good story, really fun story. One of the things that's interesting, though, that happens that Waid adds up a little later, or adds in this, is he talks about how the effects of the powers may not be great for the body of a child, and that Wally possibly running could be dangerous and could harm him in the future. So at one point, he actually gets banned from running with the Flash. And also here, just at one point where he's got to save Barry from Mirror Master. Get it. Anytime you're a master of this story, it's a really good story. Yeah, that's right here what he tells him. Tells him, son, I hate to tell you this, but your running days are over. Near as I can tell, if you ever use your powers again, they will kill you. What's interesting about this too is that Wally's actually in the present time, because we're cutting back and forth between the present and the past. Wally's telling this story through a therapy session, so it's kind of cool to see him like go back and forth. And this is the big climax, because again, the big thing with Wally too is like we talked about last time, is Wally doesn't exactly have the best relationship with his folks. He loves Aunt Iris. To him, Aunt Iris is his real parent, his real mother. The mother and the father, I mean, they try, but ultimately he didn't get along with them until this specific moment here, where he does have a moment with his father, where he is trying to run away. It's a big storm. His father tries to save him from a tree. Big lightning storm happens. Big tornado happens. His father gets crushed by a tree. He doesn't know what to do, and then finally he decides, screw it. Puts on the ring, puts on the costume, and in classic Flash fashion, reverses a tornado back. Which is one thing I think is cool, too, about the Flash, that I like he's kind of got that classic rescue. Like, a lot of versions, like the show, a lot of comics have adapted it, where it seems like the classic Superman thing, especially ever since the movies, was Superman, like, catching an airplane or catching a helicopter. Like, that's been done numerous times. Whereas for the Flash, it seems his big thing is reversing a tornado. Alright, now we got a little, and that's the end of Born to Run. We got a little crossover with Aquaman. And also here's Linda as well. At this point, they're still friends, but their relationship is definitely going to develop later in this run. Let's just say Wally's kind of like most guys. He's, especially at a younger age, at his young age, not exactly down with commitment, or at least not yet. Alright, here's Abracadabra as well. This is a pretty cool big story where at one point they end up going to the future. And this is a big part of the run because, like I said last time, I think I said this in the last episode, but like, it seems like every run or every full run will have this one main villain. And in the case of this run, the Mark Waid run, I would say it is Abracadabra, because Abracadabra is going to be in this run a lot. And he will do a lot of stuff to affect Wally, to the point where Wally is basically the Flash so long for a while that Abracadabra started as an original classic Silver Age villain. And I would say that if you have Fawn and Barry as arch enemies, to me, when it comes to Wally, his arch nemesis is Abracadabra. I mean, there are some other great villains Wally faces off with. We'll get to one in the next run, but like this, I would say would be Wally's top tier villain, like his biggest arch nemesis, to the point where again, he kind of transitioned from like being a Barry villain to the stuff that he gets involved with Wally. Barry is basically like a minute to him. Let's skip around a bit. Their annual. By the way, love the artwork as well. The artwork here is fantastic. So you love that 90s charm. Oh, this is another thing, too. This is another new villain named Chillblade. He kind of is basically like, he's supposed to be like the new Captain Cold, because at one point, some of the rogues end up dying. I don't remember specifically how, but like they do end up dying at one point. They're going to come back later, but like some of them do like leave the book for a good while. And I think at the time, I guess they were thinking like, oh, it's the 90s. We need new like extreme villains. The rogues are dated. The next run, we'll see how dated they are. But anyway. But yeah, like actually, that's the one thing I will admit is a little disappointed about this run, is that you really don't see the rogues that much, or at least not till like way later in this run. But yeah, that's Chillblade. He's basically just supposed to be, he's the new Captain Cold. Except nowhere near as cool. I mean, you get a couple of the classic ones. There's Boomerang, there's Trickster. The Chunk. Golden Gliders here as well. Weather Wizard. Yeah, so a good amount of them are in here. And this is a pretty cool story. Guerrilla Warfare. This is where Wally gets to team up with Hal. Which is kind of interesting, too, considering that, like, again, this is around the time where Wally is, like, he's still trying to prove himself. And some of the, like, older, like, heroes who were, like, colleagues of Barry still kind of see him as, like, oh, he's Kid Flash, you know? Like, he's not the Flash, you know? He's still Kid Flash. And a lot of this run, what Mark does, specifically in one story, and we'll get to it, is, he really does establish that, no, Wally is the guy now. Like, he's the main Flash. Barry's not coming back. This is the guy. And a lot of this run goes for him basically earning a lot of respect of the other heroes and some of the villains as well. Right here a bit. Of course, that's a classic Flash image. Big head. Classic Silver Age cover. Oh, Dr. Alchemy. Dr. Alchemy's a pretty fun villain, too. And I believe this is the issue. Yeah. So, this is the issue where Wally and Linda finally get together and they finally decide to become more than friends. And Wally does admit that he does love her. And that they love each other. Which is perfect, because that leads into the next really big story. By the way, love this cover. This cover's fantastic. Another cool thing about this run, and something that would happen throughout most of Wally's tenure as the Flash, is we get a lot of the other speedsters back. Jay is back in this run now, so Jay is more or less, it's kind of cool. Jay's kind of like there as like the old guy, like the old mentor, but he also kind of sees Wally as, like, the guy, but also, like, he'll still call him, like Junior. Like, he'll call him, like, Flash Junior or something, until the next story that we get into, where he will prove himself. It's just a nice, fun Christmas issue. Nothing too eventful, right? Just a simple thing of Wally and Jay stopping a couple burglars and actually helping out this one crook who shows the error of his ways and realize, hey, it's Christmas, and also, like, you don't have to go about it this way. You don't have to steal for your family. And things end up nicely. Wally and Linda are together, Jay and Jonah are together. It's a nice, happy Flash Christmas, right? Then someone's at the door. Barry? And now we start the best story of this run. This story is called The Return of Barry Allen. Let's open up, shall we? So yeah, Barry's back. Barry is back. He doesn't have a lot of his memories back, but he is back now. He remembers some things, not a lot. Some people are still skeptical about it, though, namely Wally. Other people are happy, like Hal. Hal's happy to see his old friend. But again, since Barry is back now, he doesn't know certain things that happens. Like, for example, here he attacks Pied Piper, thinking Pied Piper's still a villain, not knowing that, like, he's an ally now. And also, this is one of my favorite moments in the book, where this is one of my things that I've always agreed with Barry over Wally, is him getting on him about having his identity be public. And also, one thing that's cool, too, is I like this shot where you see the comparison of, like, the classic Flash suit, and then you have the new modern look. I like both versions either way, but you can definitely tell this is definitely more suited for Wally. This is more of a classic Barry look. So Barry is back. Wally is still a little skeptical, and also another thing, too, that now that Barry is back, Wally kind of feels like he's backseat driving again. Like, even to the point where there are certain things where Barry will kind of lecture him, and Wally will be like, am I asking for a lecture? Like, you know? But then this is the big moment that happens where Barry does visit Iris's grave. Yes, Iris did pass. And this is the moment where Wally finally does realize it really is Barry, because this should have been one of the first things he should have done, is see the grave of his wife. But yeah, now they have accepted, and it's the end. Barry Allen's back for now, right? Yep. Nothing will ever be the same. Barry Allen is back. So now we got different flashes. But again, now that Barry is back, Wally is now starting to question, like, what is his role? I mean, does Keystone City, Central City, really need 2 flashes? Or 3 in the case of Jay? And Wally does kind of decide that with Linda, maybe we should move on. Maybe we should, or in Wally's case, he feels like now that Barry's back, maybe it's time for him to become another superhero, come up with another identity, because to him, he still sees Barry as the Flash, and now that Barry's back, Wally feels like he's like taking his spot. But things aren't all hunky-dory. Like, Barry is still acting a little weird. Like, at one point here, we just find him randomly in this alley. Like, oh, what's that about? And we see this one book. This book will come into play later. But here's the big moment. And this is the moment where things go awry. Where stuff hits the fan. I won't say the other one. Want to keep guidelines here. Now there's a moment where the villain that they're fighting here says, "Let it be known, this is the night we killed the Flash." In this case, Wally. Wally's buried in all this rubble. Barry loses his mind and starts to attack this guy, scream at this guy, berate this guy. Though, it's not for the reason you think. What does Barry exactly say to this guy? What made Barry so upset? Was it because that potentially that his stepnephew, his sidekick, Wally West, was killed? No. This is what he says. "I'm the Flash. Do you understand me, punk? I'm the Flash. That's what Barry got mad about. Barry got mad that this villain called Wally the Flash and not him. What is going on here? Well, we're about to find out as we are about to experience the most tragic day in the life of Wally West. This story is so good. This is like one of the all-time best Flash stories in my opinion. Like, if there's ever like, if I'm ever going to make like a top 10 list of like best Flash stories, this would be like within like the top 5. This is amazing stuff. But now here's the other thing too. Now that some people are starting to suspect some things are going on with Barry, Jay specifically, Jay thinks something is wrong here. So he decides, you know what? Let's bring in some reinforcements. And these are characters that are going to be in for the rest of the run. We first start, of course, with Johnny Quick. Johnny Quick becomes a big character. Jay recruits him. And then we also see this one man counting his coins. Or counting his tokens. He's a big character. We will find out that he is known as Max Mercury. And he is the Zen master of a particular... We'll get to it. We'll see in this run. But okay, yeah. There is at one point where Wally and Barry are trapped in this force field. And the two of them are trying to like vibrate out of it. Of course, the force field's made for this because they know this ability of the Flash. Which, by the way, I still think that's one of the coolest abilities of the Flash, to be able to vibrate from solid objects like that. So there is this one moment where the two of them do use their kinetic energy and work together. Barry's able to get out. Wally's now reaching for Barry's hand. Barry doesn't take it. If you're a pro wrestling fan, this is almost like a heel turn 101 right here. Not taking the tag. But yeah. Barry basically says, screw you, kid. I'm the real Flash. Not you. Bye-bye. And leaves him to die. Wally does eventually get out. But again, knowing what's happened to him and how devastated Wally is, Wally throws in the towel. Now, in between, we do get this one issue with Green Lantern. We get a Green Lantern issue where Barry has to be taken down. Because Barry starts to go a little bit crazy and starts wrecking some havoc, and Hal Jordan's like, what is going on with my best friend? And Hal and Barry have this big fight in the Flash Museum. Really cool issue. I'm actually glad they included this, because of course Mark Waid didn't write this, but like I like that it is included here. Because it's not really necessary to the story, but it is kind of cool to see. Like it's almost like a tie. It's basically a tie-in. Final blow. So yeah, so they mentioned in the issue, but again, like I said, cool that they included it. Wally's now all depressed and miserable. Barry's on like this crazy rampage. What is going on with Barry? Barry's now like gonna like kill these like construction workers. We don't know what's happening, but now here comes the trio. Johnny Quick, Jay Garrick, Max Mercury versus Barry. Let's do this. I love this splash page, by the way. Barry, of course, does eventually overpower them. Wally walking around feeling bad for himself. Dressed like he's in the 80s for some reason. Dressed like he's in Miami Vice. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah. I mean, it was still early 90s. This was like 93, I think. But remember the book I brought up before? Get back to that in a second. We continue the big construction fight. And this has probably one of the most devastating moments coming up here. Wally does see the book. My God. Oh my God. The pieces start to come together. Jay ends up saving these people from the construction yard. Meanwhile, Wally knows what's going on. Wally tries to come in. He's too late. He sees Jay's helmet. And we get to this issue, issue 78. To save the city, they would have to defeat their most deadly foe, Barry Allen. I'm sure most of you already know the twist, but I'm going to keep it as a surprise anyway. Like, once we get to it. Oh, and also this is where Wally is learning the speed formula from Johnny Quick. 3xe 9yz. He keeps using that formula as a way to boost up his speed. It's something that he uses. But Wally can't use that himself. And then, of course, that's where Max comes in, Max Mercury, who was known in the Golden Age as Quicksilver. Yeah. But yeah, Max is actually a really cool character, though. He is kind of like, again, he's a very, like, Zen master. Like, he becomes, like, a big mentor figure to Wally and to another particular character who's going to debut in this run, but we'll get to him later. And this is a great moment here, too, where Jay does stop calling him Junior and finally calls him Flash. Thanks, Jay. Flash? Whatever happened to Junior? I call people by their names, and as far as I'm concerned, you earn yours. Now you said you had some big revelation about Barry? Wally, of course, doesn't tell it. And now here's Barry, breaking people out of prison, going insane. Why? I don't know. Well, I do know, but I'm trying to play stupid. Sorry, I'm so giddy. I just love this story so much. But here comes Jay coming in. While he's in the destroyed Flash Museum that was wrecked in the Green Lantern issue. This is round 2 between Barry and the old guys. Barry does lose his mind again. But also, this is the most devastating. This is what I was looking for. So at one point, Barry snaps Jay's ankle. Yep. He did that. And then he goes off to meet Wally in the museum. He connects the dots. Looks familiar, does it? Yes. I figured it would. Congratulations, you had the whole world going. Somehow you even fooled yourself, and that was the crowning touch. I genuinely believe your tale of traumatic amnesia. You had to have been confused when you materialized in that alleyway. Otherwise, you never would have left this behind. That's right, a full biography of Barry Allen the Flash. His entire life in intimate detail, from birth to death. It could have been published in our time. Barry's identity is in public knowledge, at least not in the 20th century. No, this book came from the future. It came with you. You're not Barry Allen. Your name is Eobard Thawne, or as you're known in this century, Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash. Yep, it was Eobard all along. It was me, Wally! There's your meme. But yep. Oh, this twist was so good. I remember when I first read this, I gasped and lost my mind. Like, I was like, oh my god! Like I kind of had a feeling, but I didn't see it coming, and I didn't have the previous knowledge because I read this like years after it came out. But yeah, this was so good. But yeah, I'm not going to go through the rest of the story. I'll just skip over some of it now. But I'll get to one of the best parts, which is actually the reason why I didn't want to show the interior cover. It's the big showdown between Eobard and Wally. And like I said, this story at this moment, this is Wally's coming out party. This is now the moment here where Wally has truly taken the Flash mantle. And this is the moment right here where he goes, not to me. I'm Barry Allen. Is that so? Mister, I do Barry Allen. And believe me, you're no Barry Allen. And this whole cover wrap around here, that's the interior. That's the interior of the book. I'll show it after. That is one of my all-time favorite splash pages. Love it. And eventually what does happen is he does trick Eobard to return back to the future. I won't get into too much detail of how he came back. But let's just say he is from a different present and from a different time. And one of the reasons why he... let me go back just a little bit, just to give a little more detail. Just trying to find that specific panel. Okay. So basically, in the future, they have this technology called plastomorph. Eobard was so obsessed with Barry, he basically changed himself to look like Barry. So there you go. That's how he's here. And he meant to go to the past to meet with Barry. He went to the wrong time where Barry was already dead. And of course, he had no amnesia. He had no memory of what happened. Time travel can do that sometimes. So yeah, but that is the return of Barry Allen. One of the best Flash stories of all time. And you think like, oh, that's probably a great way to end this run, right? No. This is the Mark Waid era. We're just getting started. A couple more stories in here. That'd be two major until we get to volume 2. But yeah, let's let us go to volume 2 though. But yes, here you go. That is that's the back, and that's the front. We'll move on to volume 2 now. All right, and here is the Flash by Mark Waid volume 2. Who's this character? We're going to find out. Alright, so Volume 2 collects. I forgot to mention Volume 1's contents. Give me 1 second, but Volume 2 does collect issue 0, 92 for 129, the Flash Annual 7 through 9, Flash Plus number 1, Impulse 10 for 11. Who's Impulse? We'll get to him in a second. And sorry guys, I'll mention here too, Volume 1 collected Flash 62 for 91, Flash Annual 4 through 6, Green Lantern 30 for 31, and 40. Flash Special number 1, and Justice League Quarterly 10. Alright, let's get to Volume 2. Let's open them up. Alright. This interior I can show off. Not as spoilery. Just a generic image of Wally running. Stretch those spines. Alright. So here's volume 2. This is actually a really big volume. It does have a lot of cool stories. It has one of my favorite stories, Dead Heat. We'll get to it. But one of the big stories that's going to happen in this run, I'll get to it in a second. Well, we'll just get to it now, actually. Well, first off, Aunt Iris comes back. Yes, Iris does return. Iris has been, obviously, as you know, she's been in the future. She hasn't been dead. Then, again, Barry forgot that part. Or Eobard forgot that part. But why is Iris here, specifically? Why is she here? She has a certain thing for Wally, a certain mission. Something she wants Wally to do. There's a new kid in town. And his name is Bart Allen, a.k.a. Impulse. The grandson of Barry and Iris. But what does Iris want Wally to do? Basically, she wants him to like train Bart, because one of the things that happens is Bart is from the future. And he lived his whole life through the world of virtual reality. He didn't live a real life. Like, that's one of the weird things that happens in the future. You can, like, live your life in a different way. And he lived his life all for virtual reality. So he doesn't know too much about the real world. So he's very impulsive and very hyper. But one of the big things is that he has way too much speed. And his body's going to, like, give out at some point. Kind of similar to what happened with Wally in his younger age. There is at one point where they do figure it out that Wally is actually able to... he discovers a new ability where he's able to steal speed from certain speedsters. So he takes some speed from Bart and gives it to himself. So Bart has like enough speed where his body can handle it. Wally's older, so he can handle the extra speed. As we'll see throughout this run and throughout Wally's whole era, Wally is getting faster. Faster to the point where he may actually be faster than Barry. Now, this is another big issue that happens. Big DC event that happened called 0 Hour. It was the 10th anniversary of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they decided, hey, let's do another event related to that. And at one point, as sees in most of these crises, this will be a recurring theme, a Flash will end up dying or disappearing. I'll not leave you in suspense. Wally does not die. He is thought to be dead, but he is not. He ends up going on his own journey in issue 0, which is a really, really big issue. Probably one of the biggest issues of the run. Mark Waid himself personally said this is one of his favorite stories he ever did. One of the things that happens in this run that keeps getting mentioned is Wally talks about that one of the things that inspires him to be a hero is he has this moment where he sees this mysterious man who more or less basically gives him a pep talk and says, like, hey, things are going to be okay. You're going to be all right. This is how things are going to go through in life. And for the longest time, he never knew who that mystery man was. He eventually does find out that the mystery man is himself. It's his future self that basically tells his younger self, hey, this is what's going to happen. you'll be fine. I mean, he doesn't tell him, like, everything that's going to happen. Like, hey, you're going to become the Flash and all this stuff. But, like, he more or less, like, gives him a pep talk that says, look, don't be down. Things are going to get better. I promise. And it's a really, really cool story. Really cool. Very inspiring. I love the shot with Wally going through all of his versions. It's a fun little annual. Okay, so now we're in the new start, though. This is the start of one of the big stories now, Terminal Velocity. This is part 1. This is a very significant story because we're going to see a debut of something that's going to change Flash lore forever, and something that will be consistent throughout the rest of this character's entire legacy. Doesn't matter if it's Barry, Wally, Jay, whoever. It will be here, and it'll be here to stay. So one of the things that's going on here is Wally thinks he might die. Or he thinks something's going to happen to him. He sees a vision where, okay, he doesn't think he's going to die. Sorry. He sees a vision that he believes Linda's going to get killed. And he is trying everything to prevent it. If you're a fan of the TV show, this may sound a little familiar. But one of the things that does happen is Wally does go through becoming so fast. And one of the other things he's hiding is he has all this energy now flowing through him, and he can't control it. Power surge, as they call it. So all this is going on while Wally and the other speedsters are trying to take down this group known as Cobra. Which, admittedly, that's kind of like my one critique about this story, is I really wish it was a better villain than Cobra, but whatever. Can't be a bar in every story. But throughout this story, Wally also does think that, like, he can't control this energy forever. At some point, he may end up dying, losing his abilities, and he wants to, he more or less wants to see if he can find a successor. Like, he thinks this is the end of his finish line. Like, all Flashes have a certain limit. They all have to reach that finish line at some point. But, of course, one of the other things that goes on in this story is Wally is kind of, being distant from people because he's not, of course, telling them what's going on. He's trying to keep everything to himself, particularly to Linda, because he doesn't want to tell Linda, hey, Linda, you're going to die, you know? He doesn't want to tell her that. Okay, but now this is where things are important. Really important. The other side of the light. Max tells this story about how he first discovered this elemental force. This force, this surge of energy that gave him the ability to run at the speed of light and possibly even faster. And basically made him, like live for, like, much longer than he was supposed to. Because this is way back in the day. This is way back in the Cowboy Indian days. But he goes through this force. And eventually later on, we will find out that this is the Speed Force. Yes, this is the story where the Speed Force debuts. We have Mark Waid the Fake for the Speed Force. The Speed Force is, of course, the power of... It's a universal energy where all the speedsters' powers come from. This is where everyone gets their speed from. And of course, there's so many things that get used with the Speed Force later on. So basically, all other future Flash writers have Mark Waid to thank for this. And this is where it debuts here in Terminal Velocity. I'm not going too much more detail here, but we'll skip near to the end. Because yeah, it does have one of the coolest moments where at one point, Wally is teased to end up dying because he does end up going through the Speed Force himself. Or as they think, because again, they still don't know it's called the Speed Force. They call it the Speed Force. I forget exactly what they call it. They call it something else here. They don't call it the Speed Force yet, but they more or less kind of see it as like their nirvana or their heaven. future foreshadowing. So it doesn't fully mean they're dead, but they may be gone for a while. And Wally at one point ends up going to this energy. And this was the big tease, and of course this leads into Flash 100, because one of the things I thought was kind of cool was Mark Waid in a way was kind of trolling his fans, because this was around the time where Superman died, Batman's back got broken, Hal Jordan went insane. And he got replaced by Kyle. Was Wally going to be next? Were they going to have Bart be the new Flash, or Jesse Quick, or someone else? Yeah, we got Jesse Quick as well. That's Johnny Quick's daughter. She joins the team as well. But at one point now, it is now down to Linda, Pied Piper, and the other speedsters, ready to take down Cobra and avenge Wally. But yes, this becomes so big that even it affects other cities in the DC universe. And here's Batman and Robin. Kyle, of course, the new Green Lantern at the time. Linda's ready to take down, and she's ready to kill. But then there is this moment where Wally does come back. Wally is surged with this energy. He's surged with the energy of the Speed Force. But he does give it all up. I mean, not the power. I mean, he's still got his powers. But he gives up going to Nirvana and achieving the ultimate destiny of a speedster. And why does he give it up? He gives it all up because all for love. He loves Linda Park so much, and he wanted to stay with her, and he couldn't leave her. And this is actually one of the things that's interesting, is that for a while after this moment, it's a great moment between the two of them, but then the relationship gets a little rocky, because Linda more or less basically gets intimidated by the fact that, like, Wally basically chose heaven and the afterlife for her, and for her, she feels like she's not equipped enough for that. Like, to her, she seems like that's way too much pressure for me. Like, for her, in her mind, that's almost like, would he resent me at some point in the future that he gave this up for me? And it's just, a lot of stuff does happen. Eventually they do work it out, but yeah, that's one of the big stories here. Gotta skip around a bit here. We got a story with Mongol. Get to the next big story here. Okay. So the next big story we have, the next big arc, is Dead Heat. And what's cool about this story is that this will actually cross over with the new Impulse book. Yes, Impulse became that successful of a character that he ended up getting his own series written also by Mark Waid. But what's cool about this story is this goes more into the mythology of the Speed Force, and we have the debut of this new villain known as Savitar. Scroll through here. Like I said, it's a really good story, really fun. You have more moments with the speedsters. There's Impulse issue 10. That's part 3 of the crossover. So yeah, one of the things that's interesting about Savitar is kind of claiming that he's like the god of like all speed and the god of like the Speed Force, and he's got this almost like cult that like follows him, and at one point now he wants to take down the Flash because of course like Flash is challenging his position of being the fastest. And of course, this story does end up where he does end up taking Savitar all the way into the actual Speed Force. But of course, there is a cost to that. Wally ends up getting lost in time. And he ends up getting replaced or swapped out with John Fox, who we talked about earlier. So for a good while after this story, John Fox is supposedly now going to be the new Flash. Like I said, Mark Waid really liked teasing a lot that Wally was going to die or never come back or whatever. It's one thing to do it once or twice, but he does it at least like 3 or 4 times in this run. Again, though, love this run, but I do have my problems with it. But yeah, at one point, this does get a little weird because at one point, this is also one of the other things that's big is that one of the things that they talk about later on is one of the other things that keeps Wally at bay of going into the Speed Force or not going like too fast is his lightning rod, Linda. Knowing that as long as he has Linda's love and knows Linda can keep him grounded. Unfortunately, what happens in this story is that there is at one point where they truly do think Wally is dead, and at one point, John seduces Linda, and as Wally's trying to run home, he ends up losing his path because Linda is supposedly not fully in love with him anymore. Yeah, that's one of the weird things about this run is Mark Waid really likes to like hammer home the fact that like Wally and Linda are like truly in love and they're like this great love story. And for me, it's like I like it, but it gets to the point where I'm like, all right, Mark, we get it. This is a cool story, though. This is at one point where Wally, again, still trying to find his way home, going for all these different eras. He ends up in the actual future where Barry and Iris were, and he ends up meeting their children, Dawn and Dawn. And what's cool about this story is they actually kind of, you find out that the two of them kind of resent Wally, and they're kind of jealous of him because they actually get to, because technically speaking, because of course Barry ends up dying pretty much like right after the kids are born, they really don't get to see their father that much, where Wally got all this time with him, and they kind of resent Wally for that reason. Eventually they do work it all out. But yeah, it's a pretty cool story with the three of them teaming up. The Tornado Twins, as they're referred to. And that's Chillblaine. But yeah, Wally eventually does come back. He comes back to a frozen Linda. Snaps at John. John! God damn it! I'm going to skip over here to the ending here, so we can transition to the next part here. Not next episode, but the next book. Again, this is going to be a lengthy one. This is going to be a long episode, so. Oh my god, the Omni is flying on its own. Alright, so this is the last issue. Yeah, okay. Alright, I'm thinking of something else then. Alright, yeah, so that is the end of the Omni. And that wraps up Mark Waid Volume 2. We're going to take a bit of a detour here. In the next episode, we'll be talking about Grant Morrison, Mark Millar's run in the Flash, as well as the return of Mark Waid, as we'll see in the next episode. See you guys then.